hello. How are you doing today? Hopefully, everything is good to you and you can hear me loud and clear here at our broadcast today. My name is Ronald Flores from Curious Finance. Hopefully, you are in good shape and are ready to learn more about things about finance. I've been broadcasting and I've been sharing to you a bit before all the things that we can do for businesses. And sometimes people are asking, what really can you help us? What can you really give us to save us money in our everyday costs? And sometimes people don't realize that we really save you money and we really help you give you more of that help. So let me see what's going on here. How much really Curious Finance save people in their life? It is Mr. Scott Gotchat Chan, one of our specialists, and he will. This is one of our training about reduction of costs. And this is one of the training that we do every almost every day, because right now we are doing everything Zoom right now because of the closure. But in a non-COVID days before, we do it. We meet every twice or three times a year, so that we can get refreshed about things that we can use or we can help the business owners in their daily daily costs. Okay, so and they and reduce some taxes. So let's see what's going on here. Okay, okay, let me see. Okay, here we go.
I think there was a famous movie somewhere where someone said, "Show me the money," and we're going to spend a little bit of time here talking about some of the results that we've gotten recently for clients. Um, this group was a healthcare practice, a medical practice. They engaged us to look at their office supplies and their medical supplies. Before we got involved, they were spending about 140,000 on office supplies. We reduced that to 113,000, and so we saved them $26,000 a year on paper and pens and pencils and all that stuff that everyone buys. There's usually a fair amount of opportunity on office supplies. On their medical supplies, they were spending 370. We got it down to 286, so we're saving them $84,000 a year. Again, that's the typical stuff that you might see in a medical practice: the bandages, the needles, the gloves, that sort of thing. Again, we see a fair amount of opportunity on medical supplies in our work. This was a school district client. They engaged us to look at two different things. First was janitorial supplies, spending 400,000 on janitorial supplies. When we got involved, after we got done, they're spending 256, so we're saving about $144,000 a year. That's the stuff that they're using every day that you see out in public, right? The toilet paper, the paper towels, the chemicals, those sort of things. We also did a project on their bus maintenance. We actually have a truck maintenance expert on staff to look at trucks, and in this case it was buses, but they're spending 1.4 million on bus maintenance annually. We saved them $324,000 a year on their bus maintenance. And that was a combination of things. It was really about buying parts correctly, implementing the preventive maintenance timely, those sort of things to reduce on-road breakdowns. This client was a distributor. Look at that nice little red thing bumping in there. I'll talk about that in just a minute. They run warehouses all across the U.S. I think there's about 18 or 19 of them. We looked at their forklift propane. Forklift propane is really interesting. It's really difficult to get, what's a good price on a gallon of propane? It's not like diesel fuel or gasoline that you can drive by a convenience store or a gas station and get the price per gallon. As you see, we almost cut their price in half. So we were spending $106,000. We got it down to $58,000, or saving them $48,000 a year on their forklift propane. I have kind of a special place in my heart for propane. We also did their trash. They were spending $62,000. We got it down to $5,000, so we're saving them $57,000. That's not a typical result. It's not normally quite that good, but they had a ton of stuff that they were throwing in the dumpster every week. And we found people that would buy it. And sometimes they wouldn't buy it, they would just take it. And whenever we can do that and reduce the hauls, it certainly reduces everything that's in the landfill. And then on their utilities, spending $162,000 on their utilities, we got it down to $146,000. We saved them $16,000 a year. That was on their electricity and on their natural gas, and every business has those costs. And then you see the red $51,000. There was a charge that they had on their utility bill. We got them a refund of $51,000 for that overcharge. So part of what we do in this process is we audit those bills we audit the bills when they come in. We identified this overcharge. We reached out to the vendor. They confirmed that it was an overcharge, and we got them a refund. So fun stuff there. This is a supplier to the RV industry. If anybody knows, I'm based in Indianapolis, as I mentioned earlier. And Indiana is the home of most RV manufacturers. And so we do a fair amount of work in that space. But this supplier engages to look at two things. One, their LTL freight, LTL would be less than truckload. So you would have three modes of transportation: truckload, where you buy the full truck; less than truckload, where you buy a piece of the truck; and then the third one would be parcel, like your FedEx or UPS, like your boxes, that sort of thing. $530,000 a year annually. Before we got involved, we got it down to $373,000, so we're saving them $157,000 a year on their LTL shipping. That's a good story. They also do, so they have what they call local dedicated delivery. So their products that they manufacture are delivered to the local RV plants. It's a dedicated logistics program. They're spending 1.3, almost 1.4 million when we got started. And then we got it down to about 1.3 million. So we're saving about $100,000 a year on that. This one was interesting. Hotel operator, so operating hotels all over the country. We did a project on the credit card processing. As you can imagine, that's a huge expense for them, because virtually every guest that there is swiping their card, spending $890,000 on the processing alone. And so that's just the fee to swipe the card. We got it down to $653,000, so we save them $237,000 a year. There's a lot of things that go into credit card processing. Some of the things there are whether the card is present or not, or how they're swiping and that sort of thing. And so those all present opportunities to save money. We also did their trash, $104,000. We got it down to $80,000, so we're saving them $24,000 a year. One of their hotels was really unique. If there's a box over the top of the dumpster, just a little bit, it generates an overage charge of about, at this time it was $75. And the driver is incentivized when he pulls up to the dumpster to charge that. And so anytime it was peeking over the top, they got stung with that charge. One of the things we did at one of their hotels, they're in a a fairly nice area of town that had restrictive covenants about how they could set up their trash. And so they had a building that the dumpsters were housed in, and they couldn't make it any larger. And so one of the things that we did was we set them up with a compactor. Now you may have seen a compactor out in a business, and it's a big giant unit that's compacting it and putting it in a dumpster. This one is actually the size of a refrigerator, like that you might have in your kitchen. And they put the trash in it, they compact it down, and it comes out in a small bale. They take that bale and dump it in the dumpster. And a fair amount of that was eliminating the overage charges. They were already picked up 7 days a week, so we couldn't pick them up anymore. And so that was our solution on that one to save them money. Another warehousing company, we looked at their phone bills. Again, propane, I have a special love for forklift propane or any sort of propane that's being consumed in office supplies. Spending $420,000 a year on their phone bills. When I talk telecom, I'm talking plain old phone systems like you might answer in your office or your home, cell phone bills, internet lines, data lines, those sort of things. We got that $419 down to $268, so we're saving them $151,000 a year. They also were being overcharged, and we got them a credit of $90,000. Again, part of our process is going in and looking at every component of the bill. Is it correct? Is it the right amount? Is it, should they be paying that or shouldn't they? And in this case, they were being charged something they shouldn't, and we got a refund for them. Forklift propane, $317,000. We got it down to $226,000. So we're saving them $91,000 a year. Great. They loved it. Absolutely loved it. Office supplies, spending $190,000. We got it down to $144,000. Saved them $46,000 a year. The vendor also wrote them a check for $22,000 for signing on, kind of like a sign-on bonus, if you will. It was really a sign-on bonus. So you execute the agreement and move your office supplies to us, and we'll write you a check for 22 grand. And so that's fun stuff. Anything that we can do to save them money, we're going to do it.
So as you can see, it's not just a penny or something small, right? It's a big thing, big item things that we can use or the business owner can do so that they can save some money. But I, you might ask, who's qualified for all these things? Who is qualified to have these things? And as you can see over there, saving them a lot of money, a lot of waste, really basically going to the dumpsters, they've been charged for just to throw their trash, and that's a lot of things, that a lot of money that you can use to grow your business. So who is qualified for all of this? So let's see. Let's continue listening to this. I know it's a little bit long, but I think it's very important for the business owners to know who is qualified for this kind of strategy.
Let's talk about characteristics of a prospective client. Because this is on a contingency, the larger the better. We like to think, or I use a rule of thumb of if they're spending $100,000 in a spend category. And what I mean by that is if they're spending $100,000 on shipping and freight, or $100,000 on raw materials, or $100,000 on trash or phone bills, then it makes sense to do it. If you came back to me and of course, for every rule of thumb, there has to be an exception. If you came back to me and said, hey, Scott, I've got a client spending $100,000 a year on copiers, I'd probably fall out of my chair and hit my head because they would never spend that. But the profit margin on copiers is tremendous, and they're always good to look at it. So it's just a good rule of thumb. Multiple locations, those are always great prospects. It's a way to help them leverage their buying power across all their different locations. Many times what we see is that each location is kind of doing their own thing independently. For example, maybe one location is buying office supplies at Staples, and one is buying them at Office Depot, and another one is buying them at Quill. And so they've never really leveraged their buying power. And that's one of the things we can do, is help them leverage their buying power. If they're in an acquisition or growth mode, again, great characteristics. Many times if they've acquired another company or they're rapidly growing, they have not leveraged their buying power and done some of the things they can do to help themselves save money. If they have a liquidity event coming up, so you're talking to a business owner and you're talking about all these other great strategies that you're learning about here at the Elite Growth Academy, and you learn that, hey, I'd like to sell my business in 5 years. That should set off like big red buzzer in your head to do cost reduction work. And let me unpack that a little bit more. I'm just going to use the number 5 because I can do that math in my head, or at least usually I can. If the business owner expects to sell their business, and one of the components of that is 5 times earnings, and we can go in there and save them $100,000 a year, at that liquidity event, that generates about $500,000 in additional value of their business at that event time. Again, that's simple, 100,000 a year times the multiple of 5. Some businesses may sell at a little bit lower multiple. Some businesses may sell at a higher multiple. But regardless, if we can get in there before they are planning for a liquidity event and save them some money, it will pay huge dividends down the road. Some of the more common industries that we do work in, healthcare, generally these are privately owned practice groups or rural hospitals. The really large healthcare systems, generally they have a whole department that does what we do and generally won't hire us. So generally they're privately held practice groups or smaller independent hospitals. Could be rural or not. Manufacturing, any sort of manufacturing is always a good prospect. There's a ton of things that they're spending money on that we can look at and help them save money on. Distribution, again, another good one. Hospitality, whether that's hotel operators, restaurants, those sort of things. Logistics, anything related to warehousing or moving product, those are good prospects. And nonprofit is a good prospect if they're consuming goods and services in their mission. If they're a nonprofit that raises money and distributes that money out to further their mission, they're not a great prospect. But if they're a nonprofit hospital or a nonprofit organization that consumes goods or services, they can be a great prospect for our work. And every nonprofit can certainly benefit by some added resources to help them further their mission. Someone in the C-suite is the ideal contact. It's generally either the owner, the CEO, the CFO, the COO. Generally speaking, once we get below that level, they won't hire us to do our work. So generally the C-suite is the ideal contact.
All right. So that's basically the idea, or that's their qualification for us to help the business owners. So hopefully this help you. This one only one of the strategy that we always use so that we can help the business owners reduce their costs to not throw their money in the garbage, basically, and use that money to basically grow their company, or maybe provide more good benefit for their employees, so they're a good employees of them are will stay on the company and will create growth and more productivity in their company. And lastly, I just want to make sure you are following us in Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn and Facebook. And all of this are we are have a website that curiousfinance.co that you can see what more we can help you with in your business. Hopefully everything is good and you enjoy our broadcast today and you see the potential that you can reduce your costs to operate your business. Again, this is Ronald Flores from Curious Finance. Have a nice day.